Our fourth speaker this evening. Do you believe in the paranormal? Do you believe that there are entities lurking just behind the veil of reality, waiting for their opportunity to strike? Sort of like your speech, I guess. Gil Fernandez specifically selected this Halloween edition meeting of Toastmasters to share his family's experience. The title of his presentation, The House, a Real Horror Story. The House, a Real Life Horror Story. Let's welcome Toastmaster Gil Fernandez.
Whether or not you believe in the paranormal, this story is going to enthrall you and make shivers go down your spine. Many of the experiences that I'm about to tell you are the recollections of my parents through the years about the things they remembered from this house. Before I wrote this speech, before I wrote the speech, I interviewed my mom to go over every little thing that I remember, to make sure I remember them in chronological order. As I was writing this speech, I realized, wow, this seems like a fabrication, like a horror movie. However, I want to remind you that all of the events that I'm going to talk about transpired over the course of 7 months that we lived in the house. It was 1974. I was 4 years old. My brother was 2 years old. My mom was pregnant with my sister. And as with any growing middle-class family, my parents had decided it was time to buy a house. So they bought this beautiful house in a suburb of San Juan, Puerto Rico. The suburb was called Borinquen Gardens. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but that's where all this happened. They found their dream home, and we moved in there with all of our dreams and hopes of having a wonderful life. The first indication that there was something off for my mom was that every time she was in the house, she heard like footsteps of somebody running, and it was always like across the hall or into a room, and she caught a glance of a little kid just running. She chalked it off to, we were little kids, we're running around. She doesn't always know exactly where we were. We were rambunctious and full of energy. So she was like, okay, maybe it's the kids. But one night, she was asleep, and she saw me going to the master bedroom and going to her bathroom. She thought it was weird that I was going to the bathroom, to their bathroom, in the middle of the night, because there was a bathroom right next to our room, my brother's and I's room. So she told my dad, hey, why don't you go check on Guille and see if he's all right, because he's in the bathroom here. My dad went and checked, and there was nobody there. So he told her, oh, there's nobody there. She was like, oh, I'm sure he was there. No. So he said, I'm going to go check him in the room. I was sound asleep in my room. But, this could have been a dream, nothing serious, okay? So everything's normal. Life is okay. My mom used to take us out to play in the backyard. Like you're playing in the backyard. First time she took us to the backyard to play, she said we were just playing around like any other kid. And all of a sudden, my brother and I started running, crying that there was a monster in the bushes. And she thought, hey, you know, kids, vivid imagination, you know, how could there be a monster in the bushes? So this is kids with vivid imagination. Thing is, this same event happened again and again and again every time we were in the backyard. Eventually, as little kids, we did not want to go in the backyard. So at that point, my mom started thinking, well, you know, there might be something to this house. She kept on seeing the little kid. She, you know, knew that we were not going to the backyard to play. So there were certain flags that she was concerned about them, but there was no fear yet about what was happening with the house. That all changed. On a Saturday afternoon, my mom was pregnant. She was tired. And my dad said, don't worry, I am going to take the kids and I'm going to run some errands, and then I'm going to take them to the park, play around, and then I'll come back. So she heard us leave, and she went to bed. But about 10 minutes after we left, she started hearing footsteps and little boys talking downstairs. So she was like, oh, how weird. You know, I thought, you know, the kids were gone with their dad, and I was here alone. So she decided that she was going to check on us and also tell us to keep it down so that she could rest. As she started making her way down the stairs, boom, something pushed her from behind. She stumbled down the stairs. Luckily, physically, nothing happened to her. She was okay. However, emotionally, she was a wreck because she heard things. She felt that something came behind her and pushed her. So from that moment on, my mom was living in fear. She was always the focus of what was going on in that house. She felt a presence at that time, and from that point on, the activity in our house escalated and got a little bit more serious. My father was young. You know, at that time, he must have been 32, 33 years old, and full of bravado and testosterone. So he made a decision. In their master's bedroom, had access to a balcony. So one night, he decided, whatever it is that's bothering my family, I'm going to challenge it. So he stepped out to the balcony and said, you know, I don't know who you are or whatever you are, stop bothering my family. I want you to go away, and if you want to bother somebody, bother me. Take on me. I challenge you. Right at that moment, when he uttered those words, the balcony door slammed shut. So he thought that was a little eerie, the timing of the whole thing. So he walks to the door to open it. Door is locked. Now he's starting to get a little worried. So he starts knocking on the door, calling for my mom. My mom comes in, you know, tries to open the door. She can't open the door. My dad says, unlock the door. The door is unlocked. She can't open it. So she got scared. She started praying. All of a sudden, she hears footsteps, looks, and sees the kid out of the corner of her eye, standing in the threshold of her room, and all of a sudden, door open. So now things have stepped up to another level. At this point, there was no doubt in my mind, in my parents' minds, that there was a strange presence in the house, that in some way it was interacting with us. It was intimidating and attacking us, really. So my mom decided we have to do something about this, and she decided to go to church and talk to a priest. The priest decided, talked to her, heard her story, and said, listen, I'll give you a book of prayers, some holy water, but I am not able to do anything about this. However, there is a priest in the island that can perform exorcisms. And I'm going to contact him, tell him the story, and we'll set up an appointment for you to meet him. So eventually, they met. And when she met this priest, he sat her down on a chair, listened to her talk, and said, okay, now we're going to do an expulsion prayer or something like that. And he laid her hands over her and started, according to her, saying a forceful and angry prayer, telling the spirit to get out, not to bother her. She freaked out. She didn't know what was going on. She got very, very scared and decided, I have to leave. So she told them to stop, and she left. She pretty much ran out of church. That night, my mom had the worst experience that she had while we were in the house. She went to sleep normally. She was sound asleep. All of a sudden, she felt a cold mass settling over her. She felt the air around her getting cold. And as it was getting colder, she started feeling a mass settling over her. And as it got colder and colder, she started feeling increasing pressure to the point where she couldn't move, she couldn't talk, she could barely breathe. She couldn't even cry for help to my dad that was sleeping soundly right next to her. So there was only one thing that she could do. She started praying. She prayed with all her fervor and faith. And she said that at that moment, the little boy that she had been seeing around the corner of her eye walked into the room, looked at her, walked right next to her in bed, and touched her knee. Right when it touched her, the presence that was oppressing her and the kid disappeared right in front of her eyes. So at this point, to this day, my mom says the kid that she saw walking in the room, it was me, my 4-year-old self. And it wasn't me. I don't remember any of that. But it wasn't me. After this incident, my parents made the hard decision that we needed to move out of this house as soon as possible. We knew there was something there and there was something going on. So they decided they would rent a house and move out while they sell the house. They were scared, particularly my mom, because she was the focus of the oppression. So while we were in the process of finding a place to rent a house, we were still living there. My mom said, we gotta do something. We can't just continue living here. So she went back to church and talked to the priest. The priest gave her a crucifix that was blessed. He gave her a prayer book, and told her just pray and have faith. No, they also said that we're going to do a cleaning of the house, but they needed some time to prepare. Okay. So this is when I had my experience with and met the antagonist of our family. It was a stormy night. My brother and I were in our room, and there was a big thunderstorm. It was raining hard, thunder, lightning. You know, the lightning was coming through the windows, and for whatever reason, I've always been attracted to lightning, so I was looking out the window to see the lightning. One thing caught our eye. My room faced the backyard, and my neighbor behind our house, they had two little dogs, two Cocker Spaniels, and they were out in the middle of the storm, barking and growling ferociously at our window. We were staring right at them, and they were staring right at us. And we were just looking at these dogs. It was strange that they were out in the storm barking so fiercely, and something made us look. I don't know why we did it, but something made us look to the wall opposite the window. That's when we saw it. There was a man, and every time I talk about it, my hair stands up. There was the shadow of a man, all dressed in black with a hat, just standing there. So we looked at the window. There was nothing there. We looked at the wall. There was something there. There was a man. We looked again, and we looked again, and at that moment, we just started screaming. And we screamed until we had no voice left. While we were doing that, the shadow just did this. Fixed his hat, lowered his head, and glided across the window. That was the last day we slept in our bedroom during our stay in the house. Finally, the day we had found the house, the day of the cleaning was coming. The priest was coming in. The day before we were moving out. Okay? I don't remember much about that process. I really didn't know what was going on, but I do remember the priest spraying holy water and another one with incense, walking all around the house, spraying. They were spraying us with water. We thought it was a big joke, but that's what they were doing. Everything went as any other day in the house until that evening. That evening left a mark in our spirit. We were all sleeping in my parents' bedroom because from that moment on, after we saw a ghost, we did not want to sleep anywhere but our parents' room. And that night, just in the middle of the night, we start hearing a loud noise, like if the house was shaking. We start hearing banging on the walls. Bam, 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 bam. We start hearing screams. We start hearing glasses being broken and thrown all over the place. And we were terrified. We started praying and kept praying until a few minutes later, everything stopped. We went back to bed. My parents, or nobody, wanted to leave the house. I leave the room and check. So we went to sleep that night and woke up the next day. To our surprise, as we went down the stairs, there was nothing wrong with the house. Nothing. Nothing had happened, no glasses broken, nothing. Until we look at our backyard. In our backyard, there was a dollhouse and there was a trampoline. We didn't know. The house was flipped on its side. The trampoline was sort of on like the fence. We didn't know where it came from. We had no idea where this came from. We're waiting for movers and some relatives that they were going to help us move. As we stepped outside, we realized, oh my God, something did happen. From my house to the left, there had been, it seemed like a tornado. There was a car flipped over. There was broken glass, houses, cars with broken windows, palm fronds, trees on this side of our house. On this side of our house, nothing happened. Apparently, there was a tornado that night. My parents always said that was the evil leaving our house, because it was right from our house to the left, not to the right. Our house wasn't touched. And we moved. Our life went normally after that. And a few years, not a few years, but I was an adult already, I met somebody that actually lived in the house. And I thought it was curious, and I went to ask him. I said, hey, you know, how's life in that house? You know, you like it? Nothing strange? They're like, no, life is normal. Everything's good. Happy Halloween.